While you're out there grinding yourself into the ground, chasing every shiny opportunity like a damn golden retriever, I figured out something that financially changed everything. It's not what successful people do that makes them rich. It's what they refuse to do that separates the winners from the eternal losers. I'm Professor Chalkman, your no-bullshit financial educator. I've spent decades learning what separates the financially free from the financially screwed. Today, you get the unfiltered truth. Here's what I learned the hard way. Success isn't about doing more. It's about doing less of the wrong things. These 7 behaviors were bleeding my potential dry, and they're probably destroying yours too. Look, I get it. Every financial guru out there is selling you the latest hack, the newest strategy, the secret sauce to wealth. But what if I told you that subtraction is more powerful than addition? What if the key to your breakthrough isn't what you need to start doing, but what you need to stop doing immediately? I spent 15 years adding complexity to my life. More strategies, more connections, more opportunities, more information. And you know where it got me? Overwhelmed, exhausted, and still broke as hell. The wealthy don't just think differently about money, they think differently about time, energy, and focus. They understand that every yes to something unimportant is a no to something life-changing. Before we dive deeper, hit that subscribe button right now. Why? Because this kind of raw financial truth doesn't come around often, and you need every advantage you can get in this game. I'm about to share several minutes of insights that took me decades to learn. Don't let this wisdom disappear into the algorithm. Number 1. Stop taking orders from people who haven't won the war. You wouldn't ask a homeless person for real estate advice, would you? Then why the hell are you taking business guidance from your broke uncle at family dinner? Here's the brutal reality. Most people are walking around giving advice about things they've never accomplished. That overweight personal trainer telling you how to get fit? That business coach with no successful business? That friend who's never made 6 figures explaining why your dreams are unrealistic? I used to make this mistake constantly. I'd listen to anyone who had an opinion. And guess what happened? I stayed exactly where they were. Nowhere. Let me paint you a picture. When I first started my entrepreneurial journey, I was hungry for guidance. I'd absorb advice from anyone willing to share it. My neighbor who'd been laid off 3 times gave me career advice. My cousin who lived paycheck to paycheck explained why saving money was impossible. My college friend who changed jobs every 6 months told me entrepreneurship was too risky. The result? I spent 3 years spinning my wheels, following advice from people who were more lost than I was. Then I met Richard, a guy who'd built and sold 2 companies by age 35. When Richard spoke about business, I shut up and listened. Why? Because he had the results I wanted. He wasn't theorizing about success. He was living it. Here's what Richard taught me. If someone hasn't paid the price for the knowledge they're sharing, their advice is just expensive entertainment. Success leaves breadcrumbs, but you've got to follow the right trail. If you want Olympic-level results, you ask Olympic athletes. If you want millionaire-level wealth, you ask millionaires. Not your parents who worked the same job for 30 years wondering where their money went. This isn't about disrespecting people you love. It's about respecting your future enough to get advice from people who've actually been where you want to go. But here's the kicker. Most people can't handle this truth because it means admitting that the people closest to them might not have the answers they need. It means acknowledging that love doesn't equal expertise. Your mother loves you unconditionally, but that doesn't make her qualified to guide your investment strategy. Your best friend would take a bullet for you, but if he's drowning in debt, his financial advice might sink you too. I started applying what I call the results filter. Before taking anyone's advice, I'd ask myself, what results has this person achieved in the area they're advising me about? Fitness advice? Show me your body. Business advice? Show me your businesses. Relationship advice? Show me your marriage. Financial advice? Show me your bank account. This filter eliminated 90% of the noise in my life and cleared the path for the 10% of guidance that actually mattered. Number 2. Stop feeding energy vampires. You know who I'm talking about. Those people who suck the optimism right out of your soul every time you see their name on your phone. I had a childhood friend. Let's call him Marcus. Marcus would call me every time his life was falling apart, dump his problems on me for an hour, then disappear until the next crisis. But when I got promoted, when I hit a milestone, when I needed support during tough times, silence. These energy vampires are everywhere. They show up when they need something but vanish when you're celebrating. They question your goals, mock your ambitions, and make you feel guilty for wanting more. But here's what took me years to understand. It's not just the obvious toxic people you need to worry about. Sometimes the most dangerous energy vampires are the ones who seem supportive but subtly undermine your growth. Like Sarah, my little sister, who always had a reason why my ideas wouldn't work. She'd listen to my business plans with a concerned expression, then spend 20 minutes explaining all the ways they could fail. She wasn't being malicious. She was being realistic. But her version of realistic was just fear disguised as wisdom. Or David, my gym buddy, who'd constantly suggest we skip workouts for pizza and beer. He wasn't trying to sabotage my fitness goals. He just wanted company in his mediocrity. Here's what I learned. Today's energy shapes tomorrow's reality. If you're surrounded by people who drain your battery, you'll never have enough juice to power your dreams. The science backs this up. Mirror neurons in our brain literally cause us to mirror the emotions and behaviors of people we spend time with. Hang around depressed people and you'll feel depressed. Surround yourself with ambitious people and their drive becomes contagious. I started doing friend audits. Brutal, but necessary. I cut out the people who made winning harder, and suddenly I had space for relationships that actually added to my life instead of subtracting from it. But this isn't just about cutting people out. It's about being intentional about who you let in. I started seeking out people who were playing bigger games than me. Entrepreneurs who thought my impossible goals were just warm-up exercises. Athletes who made my fitness targets look like child's play. Investors who talked about money the way I talked about lunch. The transformation was immediate. When your peer group raises their standards, yours rise automatically. When everyone around you is pushing boundaries, mediocrity becomes uncomfortable. Here's the harsh truth. Some people in your life right now are anchors, not engines. They're not bad people, but they're keeping you tethered to a version of yourself that's smaller than your potential. If this is hitting you right in the chest, smash that like button and turn on notifications, because uncomfortable truths like this one are exactly what you need to hear more often. I'm not here to make you feel good. I'm here to help you get good. Number 3, stop drowning in your own excuses. This one's gonna sting, but you need to hear it. Every excuse you make is a vote against your own potential. I used to blame everything on external circumstances. Late to work? Traffic's fault? Lost a deal? The client was unreasonable. Broke at the end of the month? The economy's rigged. I had an excuse for every failure, a justification for every setback, and a reason why success was harder for me than everyone else. I was the victim in every story of my own life. But here's the thing about blame. When you point the finger at everything else, you lose all control over your situation. And if you can't control it, you damn sure can't change it. Let me tell you about the day everything shifted for me. I was sitting in my car after losing what should have been an easy sale, creating an elaborate story about why the client was impossible to work with. Then my mentor called. "How'd it go?" he asked. I launched into my victim narrative. The client was indecisive, the timing was wrong, the market was tough, blah, blah, blah. He let me finish, then said something that shattered my worldview. "So you're telling me that your success is completely dependent on factors outside your control? That sounds like a pretty powerless way to live." That hit like a sledgehammer. I realized I'd been giving away my power to every external circumstance, every difficult person, every challenging situation. Taking responsibility isn't about beating yourself up. It's about taking back your power. You can't control what happens to you, but you control how you respond to it. Here's what changed when I stopped making excuses. Instead of blaming traffic for being late, I started leaving earlier. Instead of blaming difficult clients for lost sales, I improved my sales process. Instead of blaming the economy for my financial struggles, I developed new income streams. Instead of blaming my genetics for being out of shape, I hired a trainer and fixed my diet. Every excuse I killed became a problem I could solve. The most successful people I know have one thing in common. They own their results, good and bad. Because ownership gives you the ability to course correct. But here's where most people get this wrong. They think taking responsibility means taking blame. It doesn't. Responsibility is about acknowledging your role in creating your current reality so you can play a different role in creating your future reality. You didn't choose to be born into poverty, but you can choose how to respond to it. You didn't choose to have unsupportive parents, but you can choose your mentors. You didn't choose your starting point, but you absolutely choose your next step. The moment you stop making excuses is the moment you start making progress. Because excuses and results can't coexist. You'll always have one or the other, never both. Number 4, stop being a slave to your screen. Let me ask you something. How many hours did you lose to mindless scrolling yesterday? Be honest. Your phone isn't just stealing your time, it's stealing your focus. Every notification is a hijacking of your attention, pulling you away from what actually matters. I worked with a young guy through my mentorship program. Let's call him Jake. Sharp kid, big dreams, incredible work ethic when he was focused. But he couldn't figure out why he wasn't making progress despite putting in long hours. Then he admitted something that changed everything. His phone was his biggest weakness. Hours disappearing into social media black holes while his goals gathered dust. TikTok videos at 2 a.m. when he should have been sleeping. Instagram stories during work hours when he should have been prospecting. But here's what Jake didn't realize, and what most people miss. It wasn't just about the time he was wasting. It was about the mental fragmentation happening every time he picked up that device. Research shows that after each digital interruption, it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully refocus on your original task. Think about that. If you check your phone just 5 times during a focused work session, you've essentially made deep concentration impossible. Your brain on constant digital stimulation is like a muscle that's never allowed to rest. It becomes weak, scattered, and incapable of sustained effort. Here's the truth. If you're addicted to your device, your life probably isn't interesting enough. When you have compelling goals and exciting projects, Instagram becomes boring by comparison. I started treating my attention like a precious resource, because that's exactly what it is. In an attention economy, the person who can focus longest wins, period. I turned off all notifications except calls and texts from 5 people. I deleted social media apps from my phone and only accessed them from my computer during designated times. I put my phone in airplane mode during focused work sessions. The results were immediate and dramatic. Projects that used to take weeks suddenly took days. My income increased because my focus improved. My relationships got better because I was actually present during conversations. But here's the deeper issue. Digital addiction is usually a symptom of something else: boredom, lack of direction, fear of missing out, avoiding difficult emotions or challenging tasks. The cure isn't just digital detox. It's creating a life so compelling that constant distraction becomes unappealing. When Jake started building his business with laser focus, checking Instagram felt like choosing to eat cardboard when a 5-star meal was available. When your goals excite you more than your screen time, the phone addiction solves itself. Turn off those notifications. Your focus is worth more than knowing what your high school acquaintance had for lunch. Number 5. Stop saying yes to everything that moves. Early in my career, I was a yes man. Every opportunity that knocked, I answered. Every favor requested, I delivered. Every invitation extended, I accepted. I thought I was being smart, keeping all my options open. What I was actually doing was spreading myself thinner than peanut butter on toast. I was the guy who joined every networking group, attended every conference, started every side project, and committed to every social obligation. My calendar looked impressive, but my bank account looked pathetic. Here's what nobody tells you about opportunities. Most of them are disguised distractions. They look important, they feel urgent, but they don't move you closer to your ultimate objectives. Steve Jobs said it best: the most productive thing you can do is say no, because every yes to something unimportant is a no to something that could change your life. Let me give you a real example from my own life. 3 years into building my first business, I was invited to join the board of a local charity. It seemed like a great opportunity. Networking with successful people, giving back to the community, adding credibility to my resume. I said yes immediately. Within 6 months, I was spending 15 hours a week on board meetings, fundraising events, and committee calls. The networking was minimal, the time commitment was massive, and my business growth stalled. Meanwhile, my competitor, who'd started his business 6 months after me, was pulling ahead because he was saying no to everything except activities that directly grew his revenue. Your responsibilities are like items in a backpack. Keep adding without removing anything, and eventually you'll collapse under the weight. Warren Buffett has a famous exercise. Write down your top 25 goals. Circle the top 5. Those are your priorities. The other 20? Those aren't your lower priorities. They're your avoid at all costs list. Why? Because the good is the enemy of the great. It's not the obviously bad opportunities that derail you. It's the pretty good ones that steal time from the absolutely critical ones. If you haven't achieved significant success yet, here's my advice. Pick one thing. Commit to it for the next decade. Say no to everything else that doesn't directly serve that vision. This is painful. You'll miss parties. You'll disappoint people. You'll watch opportunities pass by. But saying no to a cool opportunity today means saying yes to your ultimate dreams. The most successful people I know aren't more talented than everyone else. They're just more focused. They've learned that success is as much about what you don't do as what you do. Speaking of focus, I want to hear from you. What opportunity are you saying yes to right now that's actually stealing time from your bigger goals? Comment below and tell me what you need to cut out of your life. No generic responses. I want the raw truth about what's distracting you from greatness. Number 6. Stop reading books like they're entertainment. I used to race through books just to check them off my list. Speed reading, no notes, no highlights, just consuming information like junk food. I was addicted to the feeling of learning without the effort of applying. My bookshelf was impressive, but my results were embarrassing. Then I realized something. The value isn't in reading the book, it's in applying what's inside. Most people treat books like Netflix, passive entertainment that makes them feel productive while actually keeping them stuck. They read about wealth-building strategies while staying broke. They study productivity systems while remaining disorganized. They absorb leadership principles while failing to lead their own lives. Here's what changed everything for me. I started reading like my life depended on it, because it did. When I picked up a book about sales, I didn't just read it. I implemented every technique within 24 hours of learning it. When I studied a book about investing, I opened investment accounts and started putting money to work immediately. I developed what I call the just fucking do it muscle. And it's the difference between shelf help and real transformation. But here's an even more powerful approach. Read with the intention to teach someone else. When you know you'll have to explain a concept to another person, you absorb it completely differently. You look for the practical applications. You test the theories. You find ways to make complex ideas simple. I started creating content about every book I read, not because I was trying to be an influencer, but because teaching forced me to truly understand the material. The result? I went from reading 50 books a year with zero life change to reading 12 books a year with massive transformation. But here's where most people go wrong. They think more knowledge equals better results. It doesn't. Applied knowledge equals results. Implemented wisdom creates wealth. I know people who've read every business book ever written but never started a business. I know people who've studied every diet plan available but never lost weight. They're knowledge collectors, not knowledge appliers. Stop collecting books like trophies. Start using them like tools. Here's my current system. I identify where I'm stuck in life, find one book that addresses that specific challenge, and then study it until I've implemented enough to create results. Only then do I move to the next book. This is called just-in-time learning versus just-in-case learning. Instead of hoarding information for someday, I consume knowledge when I need it and immediately put it to work. The people getting rich aren't the ones reading the most books. They're the ones applying the most principles. Number 7, stop competing in other people's races. This was my biggest prison, constantly comparing myself to everyone else's highlight reel. I'd see someone my age doing better and feel like a failure. I'd watch successful people and wonder why I wasn't further along. I'd scroll through social media and torture myself with other people's wins while ignoring my own progress. It was mental torture. And it was completely pointless. But here's what I finally understood. You're not competing against them. You're competing against the person you were yesterday. Think about it logically. They don't have your brain, your background, your resources, your circumstances, your timeline, or your unique combination of strengths and weaknesses. And you don't have theirs. Comparing your journey to someone else's is like comparing your chapter 3 to their chapter 27. You have no idea what they went through to get where they are, what advantages they started with, or what sacrifices they made along the way. I spent years feeling behind because I wasn't where Gary Vaynerchuk was at my age. Then I learned Gary started working in his family's wine business at 14 and had been grinding for decades. I was comparing my 3 years of entrepreneurship to his 20 years of experience. Here's what shifted everything. I started tracking my own progress instead of everyone else's. Am I healthier than I was last year? Am I wealthier than I was last month? Am I wiser than I was last week? The only fair comparison is you versus past you. This isn't just about feeling better, though it does help with that. It's about focusing your energy on what you can actually control. You can't control someone else's success, but you can control your own effort. When I stopped obsessing over other people's results and started obsessing over my own improvement, everything changed. My energy went into building instead of comparing. My focus went into creating instead of consuming other people's content. The math is simple but powerful. If you improve just 1% every day, you'll be 37 times better by the end of the year. That's the compound effect of consistent self-competition. But here's the deeper truth. Your insecurities and quirks aren't weaknesses. They're what make you memorable. I used to try to hide my intensity, thinking it was too much for people. I'd tone down my passion, soften my edges, try to be more relatable. The result? I was boring as hell and completely forgettable. When I embraced my intensity, when I stopped apologizing for caring deeply about financial education, that's when people started paying attention. My flaws became my brand. Your weird is your wealth. Your quirks are your competitive advantage. Your unique perspective is your most valuable asset. Stop trying to be a cheap copy of someone else when you could be an expensive original of yourself. In a world where everyone's trying to fit in, the person brave enough to stand out wins. In a marketplace where everyone sounds the same, the voice that's authentically different gets heard. Now for your homework, pick one of these 7 deadly habits that's been holding you hostage. Don't pick the easy one. Pick the one that scares you the most because it's probably the one costing you the most. Write it down on paper, not in your phone, on actual paper. Then write 3 specific actions you'll take in the next 72 hours to start breaking that chain. Then comment below what you wrote in that piece of paper. I'll be reading every single response, and I will call out the people who are just making excuses instead of making moves. Listen, every day you spend trapped by these habits is another day your dreams get smaller and your regrets get bigger. The difference between the person you are and the person you could be, it's these 7 choices. This isn't about perfection, it's about progression. It's about making the tough decisions that separate winners from wishers. Stop adding more complexity to your life. Start subtracting the poison that's been keeping you ordinary. Most people will watch this video, feel inspired for about 12 minutes, then go right back to their old patterns. Don't be most people. Your future self is watching your decisions right now. Make them proud. The clock's ticking. Your potential is waiting. The choice is yours. This is Professor Chalkman. Now get out there and let's die rich.